I'm Joanne Roberts, and today I'm joined by Winnipeg filmmakers Guy Maddin, Johnson and Galen Johnson, who are celebrating their Winnipeg premiere of their latest film, Rumours. So thank you for meeting with me today. First of all, thank you for the screener. I watched your film a couple of times, and my very first question is, how did you come up with the concept of having a film take place at a G7 summit?
Yeah, I could try tackling this. First of all, this was, I guess it's a how answer. We had a bunch of scripts that we'd been working on for a few years, and the G7 was just a tiny subplot in them. And every time we took another run at these scripts, the G7 plot got bigger, and then we realized our plot was too sprawling, like a 700-page script, that's 700 minutes approximately. So we would throw it in the garbage, but the G7 kept coming back, and then we decided just to go simple. 7 characters, 1 location, lost in the woods. It got a little more complicated after that. We added a couple more movie stars, so there's basically 9 characters, but it's one big nocturnal forest location, and we just wanted to go simple. And shooting the movie was anything but simple, as it turns out. But that's sort of it's got to be a rule with a name in the movie business.
I did notice at the beginning, you producers had thanked members of G7 leaders for their help in the film. Did that actually happen?
No.
Okay.
We thought there's this quality that sometimes you see it in films it's usually in older ones, films from the 20s and 30s, where they're like films about the FBI or other federal police forces, and they'll thank the FBI at the beginning of the film. And we always found that kind of bootlicking behavior funny, and so it was just basically a gag.
Just another boot to lick.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this world that you've created. So without giving too much away, G7 leaders are lost in the woods as they try to come up with a statement for an unnamed crisis. What was your inspiration for the woods?
The woods. I guess you want in a movie like this, G7 summits happen at picturesque locations always, and we just needed them to be wandering, lost somewhere. I guess that's the metaphor in the movie. So it seems like that's what you need. In the woods, I don't know. Galen and I grew up in the woods. We all like German romantic literature that takes place in forests. There's something deep and primal about them. And we wanted our movie to be set in a particular type of landscape where there are bogs for plot reasons, because there are bog mummies, bog bodies in the movie. I think that's basically the reason we wanted a forest.
You told me once that growing up in Pinawa, which is surrounded by forests, is it not? That you were quite scared of forests when you were little.
Yeah, I'm still scared of them.
Yeah, they brought that to it. They're scared of them. I'm not so scared of them, but I don't know much about them. Well, I've never been in one until this movie. But it was the lighting and the presence of movie stars and camera crews made me feel quite safe. The lighting was so bright at 4 a.m. at times that the birds woke up and started singing, and which just makes a movie set all the more stranger when the morning bird chirps are happening in the middle of the night.
You have an incredible cast of characters: Cate, Blanchett, Alicia, Vikander, Charles Dance, and my personal favorite, Roy Dupuis. I find that the G7 leaders are all questionable as people, but I was wondering, is there a trait that one of the characters has that you feel like you can relate to?
Oh yeah, I mean the movie was all about this interesting dance between coming from a starting point of thinking of contempt for G7 leaders, for people who are failing to solve our problems, and we blame them for it, and they seem vain and selfish and all that, corrupt, etc. But once we started to write the characters, it's hard to write characters and just from a point of contempt. It's not that interesting usually. So you start to identify with them, empathize with them, put them in situations where you feel like you feel how they would feel, and they start to do what you would do because you're writing them. And so that definitely, even just a group of people trying to write something that is going to help solve the world's problems is something for us as a group of artists trying to write something and make a film that will help. We identify with that sense of abject failure that the leaders embody. I personally, I don't know if if there's any one trait that any of these leaders have that I identify most with, it's the general air of not being up to the task, of that I sort of always identify. I love it. I just immediately, when someone is a failure, I just humanizes them to me, and I sort of love them.
Those lovable war criminals.
Yeah.
I guess I identified with the sleepiness of the American president, because I'm pretty good at just falling asleep, even standing up. I can fall asleep if I need a nap. I can just lean against a tree or climb up a few rungs of a ladder and where no one can see me and take a quick nap. Yeah. So I identified with him, but I remember my ardent youth enough to identify with Roy Dupuis's temper tantrums and attention-seeking gambits, etc.
It's quite beautiful to watch, Roy.
Thank you.
Just
Roy's
very-
incredible.
Yeah, he just can do anything, and it looked great. That's the way it is for movie stars.
What Evan said, just the general not being up to the task of either making a statement or a movie, or and this frustrations of working together to try and create something. It's something that's sort of probably universal. I mean, even back as far as like grade school, you'd do little group projects with your friends, and you'd start off all confident, and then you'd fight, and then the deadline would come, and you'd have to present what you made, whether you like it or not. That's just a universal experience, I think, and I hope that people will identify with that.
All right, so in this world that you've created, which, and I would love to hear from each of you, which G7 leader would you rather be stranded in the woods with?
If I wanted to survive, it probably wouldn't be the Italian Prime Minister, Rolando, but if I wanted to
So he brings food, he has food at least.
He does have food, you're right,
Yeah.
because he's also the cuddliest and warmest and funniest and sweet.
He's the heart, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe him.
Even though he seems to be an admirer of Mussolini.
It was just a costume.
Okay.
He put on for a Halloween
Yeah, him.
party.
Roy Dupuis, we've deliberately, the Canadian Prime Minister, written as a kind of almost like action adventure hero, like he thinks he's in Lord of the Rings sometimes. Of course, he's emotionally volatile though, and prone to running off crying. So I guess he's not a ideal companion for being lost in the woods. I've been lost in the woods once, actually, as a child, and had to be rescued by a search team. Yeah.
So
I don't know why I bring that up.
You just don't need anybody with you, you're good.
As long as you send out a search team to find me, I'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in this script you wrote, there's no search team. No search team ever comes. So that might be, you might have tapped into some primal fear from your childhood there.
Who would you rather be stuck with?
Roy, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he could cut down a tree with his fingernails.
And carry you
He
when
could
you
carry
get
me.
tired.
Yeah. No, of course. Why didn't I say that?
You had your premiere at Cannes. Tell me about that experience.
Cannes was everything I'd dreamt about for decades. I'd long ago given up on ever playing a film at Cannes. I just had, in my earlier solo career, before I started working with these indispensable colleagues, my films were definitely not Cannes films. They'd get into every other festival, maybe, but Cannes had a certain kind of film. But I'd been interested in getting there, and all of a sudden, it was time for me to shift my career, the vocabulary, the look, the feel of my movies a little bit, and these guys were able to pull off the creation of a Cannes film, and all of a sudden got in there. The presence of Cate Blanchett,
I think
Alicia
that's the real
Vikander.
reason.
that's
It's less
the
than
real
us. I
No,
don't
that's
think
what
Cannes
makes
wasn't
it a
trying to
Cannes
get
film.
us. It wasn't. Cannes wasn't.
Oh my God, the Johnson brothers. Wow, what a coup.
Yeah, exactly. Got the Johnson brothers, got Cate Blanchett. Well, Cate Blanchett on the red carpet makes headlines everywhere for Cannes. But when I did get there, it was just as glitzy and as glamorous as I'd thought it was as a teenager. Whenever I saw pictures of Cannes, it looks exactly the same, but that was not a disappointment. It was just the legend come to life, and I was thrilled. And I took my daughter and my granddaughters, they're teenagers, the granddaughters, and I don't think they even knew what I did for a living, seriously. And they found out all at once in the best possible way, in the middle of a red carpet with movie stars around them, that their grandfather made these movies. And so even though they might think every weekend was like the weekend we spent at Cannes for me, but it isn't, but I'm not correcting their misapprehensions.
Yeah, why would you? What was it like working with Cate?
Cate is like a what is she? She's like always has the more energy and good spirits than anybody else in a room, even if there's 100 people in the room.
Yeah.
So she's kind of always the energy. If you're in a bad mood, she cheers you up. Someone else is in a bad mood, she cheers them up. If she's in a bad mood, you wouldn't hear about it. Never heard of her being even remotely in a bad mood, even in the middle of the night on day 19 in the middle of the woods. And it's never, ever, ever did she seem like she was even the slightest bit grumpy. I've almost never experienced anyone like that.
She's very good at every aspect of being a movie star. The acting, everything, the directing, as if 3 aren't enough. She's so experienced working out a scene. She's so good at, like, if she was here, sitting with us, she'd be so good at answering your questions, like so much better than us. She's a A+ across the board.
She also directs herself a lot. We'd say, "That was fantastic, Cate," and she would come back and look at herself on the monitor the previous take and go, no. And we'll swear and say no and go back and we'd just go again or whatever. And
I feel like I should stand up for us, though. We also directed her sometimes as directors.
No, we did.
I feel like
Yeah.
that did happen.
No, that's true. It's not like she just made the thing, that came in, it got financed and directed by her, and that she was in the editing room fixing things and stuff like that. But no, she's so smart and so observant. Like a lot of these actors, Denis Ménochet is like that. Can see through you and into your soul. And they're not entirely normal people, great actors.
So we've been having a lot of conversations over the past couple of years about the film industry opening up to different people, showing films that perhaps would not be shown 5-10 years ago. I'd love to ask each of you, starting over here, do you feel like that the industry is opening up to filmmakers like yourselves that perhaps would not have been at Cannes a couple of years ago?
No, I don't feel that. I feel this. Cate Blanchett was the reason this reached the level it did, I believe. I strongly believe that. Maybe I don't have enough, or we don't have enough data to say whether or not that's true. But it's a script like this is always going to be really hard to finance. Canada's kind of we're lucky to be here because the film industry's partially government financed. So there's ways to make weird things that in the American independent system you would just not be able to do. Whether it's gotten better or worse, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, my answer would be the same as Galen's. I don't know if it has felt like, I know at least in Hollywood, like a small number of, it's worse than ever, a small number of movies taking up most of the financing resources. But there is ways of making films outside Hollywood. And around the world, there's, so many great movies being made at smaller levels. So I'm not that worried about the future of the art form, but I don't know.
And film festival programming, which is far different than just general wide release film distribution, but it seems far more diverse now with cultural groups that would have been marginalized right out of the industry having a presence on the screen now. And of course the Academy, the Oscars, took a lot of heat for not being very diverse over the last 10 years. And they've overcorrected it to the point where they even invited me as a marginalized old white guy making great films. Bella Tarr and I got invited on the same day. I don't think either of us ever paid our dues and finished registering, but the diversity got so out of control.
We're too diverse. We need more white men.
That's right, yeah.
They just had to rein it in a little bit and just put Bella on here on this side of the scales and me on the other, and everything is a little bit more sort of.
So all of you serve as such great inspiration for filmmakers all over the world, but especially here locally in Winnipeg. As you've been with the Winnipeg Film Group, you've walked our streets, you have started your careers here. For filmmakers that want to create these surreal and eccentric and dreamlike films, is there a piece of advice, big or small, that you would give to an aspiring filmmaker that, you know, maybe one day does want to end up at Cannes?
Just learn how to do everything yourself.
That's actually
Yeah.
the first piece of advice I got from a local filmmaker, John Pays, way like 42 years ago. Just learn how to load the camera and do it. It's just one less person to rely upon, one fewer. Yeah, just if you can vertically integrate into sort of a one-person operation or keep the numbers low, you'll learn everything, and you're the one that cares the most. And then also just do it.
Yeah, don't wait around. Don't
Just
try
do
not
it.
to wait. Try not to wait around for somebody else to do it for you. Just do it.
Yeah, and don't just talk your movie idea out into the cafe night air. Just
No, don't talk about your movie at all until it's finished to other people.
Exactly.
And then move on and do another one. Don't
Yeah.
hang on
that's
to your
the other. That's the other big one. When someone
Don't
makes
go on
a,
TV and be interviewed about your movie.
do not go on TV to be interviewed about your movies. Just make another one. We should be making another one right now. No, but the city seems to be supplying a lot of filmmakers to the world right now. A lot of it is because Manitoba Film and Music, started by Carol Vivier, really lobbied hard for tax credits here and provincial support for films. But also the Winnipeg Film Group churned out a lot. All I know is I'm not even familiar with most of them, but the Toronto Film Festival had really high, disproportionately high Manitoba representation here. I have seen Matthew Rankin's Universal Language, and I really loved it. And I know there were other filmmakers at TIFF, and there's many more coming up, so it's working. It's working.
My final question to you is, what are you most looking forward to with your local premiere tonight?
Oh, I'm dreading it.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
want to do
terror,
the
pure
local.
terror.
That's the worst thing you can do is the local premiere.
Because they're
I
all
think.
there because they are your friends.
They have to be there.
They have to be there. It's sort of mandatory. When you go to another film festival, people are
resent
coming to
being
your
there.
movie because they want
Yeah.
to see it. But this one, no, they're coming because
Yeah.
they're our friends and family. So no, this
Because
is just
they received a dreaded email inviting
Yeah.
them to
Yeah,
this.
we're going to be
couldn't
weird
think of an
energy,
excuse.
bad vibes in the room, and we're going to be reflecting those vibes back to the audience with our anxieties.
Toxic.
It's going to be terrible. No,
Toxic.
it'll be fine. I think it'll be nice.
Yeah.
Some of my friends feel sorry for me enough that they'll say some nice things.
I'm sorry, Guy, you had a movie with Cate Blanchett and Alicia Vikander and
Yeah.
Charles Dance, and that must have been
Yeah,
an
it's
awful
managed to,
experience.
well, it managed to turn this into a self-pity fest.
I started the festival just 30 seconds ago.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I really,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Rumours is having its premiere tonight, followed by a limited cinema run, so make sure to check it out. Thanks for watching.